Wow. Good morning. I am so excited and a little terrified to be up here in front of all of you. What an amazing crowd. Welcome home. I know the old timers get it, but for the first timers, the newcomers in the room, this is the one place where you can talk about what you do with anybody in the room. So this is the 6th FinOps X, if you count Barcelona. And this is the last FinOps X in its current form. Now, we are not done. We're just getting started. But the discipline has outgrown a single thread, and the conference has as well. How many of you have their phones on silent? Good job. We're going to take 30 seconds. Turn to your neighbor, say hello, and introduce yourself. Tell them which FinOps X is for you. Go. Come here.
For me, I was here right at the start.
There you go.
That's awesome.
It's my 6th.
Well done, man.
All right, more to come. Okay, bring it back in. Come on, that's it. You get one of those. Back, time is up. Okay, so the first FinOps X, the first one was in Austin, Texas. How many of you were there? Yes. So we didn't know it at the time, but this FinOps X was in the before AI times. It was just a few months before that big moment, ChatGPT-1 launched and changed what we do, and frankly, what all of you do every day as well. So that entered into an era I like to call the old days of AI. At this point in time, your chatbot started to understand you, and it could write some decent code. We at the foundation thought, we should really go look at this FinOps for AI thing, see what it's all about. In November 2025, we entered a new era. That month, there were major model releases from all the big providers that took AI from pretty good to really good. I work at the Linux Foundation, and so I have the pleasure of having this guy, Linus Torvald, the maintainer and core creator of Linux, as a coworker, and he was quoted in November 2025 saying, this AI thing, it's fine, but just don't use it for anything important. So Linus, as well as millions of developers around the world, went home that holiday season, November through January, and they started trying all these new models. And by January, Linus came back and was quoted with a new code project that he had vibe coded over the holidays. And this was the start of a new generation for really the world. We then entered what I like to call the good old days of AI, which was from November of 2025 to March 2026. This was the era of all-you-could-eat tokens and subscriptions. It gave us token maxing. And everybody was really excited about their token leaderboard. Who has the most maximum token usage? I also was hearing for a very brief moment, I literally had a global CIO of a Fortune 100 say this to me, I have unlimited budget for tokens. Then this happened. And I'm not just calling out these folks. They're an amazing company with amazing technology. But you all saw this news. This was 52 days ago. And this happened to a lot of you around that time. Their CTO said, we've just blown up our budget. It's only April. This started happening day after day after day. I couldn't turn around or wake up or open whatever feed I was looking at without seeing another story of token use gone wild. And CEOs were starting to post about this being the biggest challenge for companies today. So this brings us to the current era, April 2026 of this year, the era I like to call the Great Token Panic. Token use is vertical for many of you. Turns out token leaderboards were not the best idea, we've all learned. We're hearing stories constantly that a lot of you are 3x your token budgets, it's only April or May, and all of a sudden we're talking about guardrails. Does this sound familiar, those of you who went through the cloud growth migration era at all? It's a little bit faster, a little bigger, a little more in the news. So 16 days ago, that same company COO said, hey, this token maxing thing really isn't necessarily delivering the value we thought it was going to be delivering. And just 4 days ago, TechCrunch reported that they're capping AI use. Is anybody capping their AI use? Will you admit that? Ooh, don't tell your CEO. Innovation first. So let's talk about global token usage in the last 12 months. I'm going to start with last year at this conference in June. Token use from June to November had a nice linear being the key word there, growth. Those models land in November, and we see this happen. What's called non-linear growth of token usage. And we all woke up with this. What just happened? Well, a lot of things happened. First thing, context windows started to explode and expand. Context windows are how your LLM keeps facts in memory, in cache, sitting there so it can have those interactions, remember things. What we saw happen around that period, new models and new ways of using models, context windows went from a few thousand or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands up to millions of tokens in a single conversation. And then, took this long to say it, Agentic. Agentic hit the scene and exploded, adding reasoning and loops and retries and corrections and all this insanity where a non-human that does not give up and does not rest and does not tire keeps hitting the LLMs, keeps retrying, keeps failing. This created a lot of loops and an extravagant amount of token usage. So where's it going in the next 4 years? Because it's been pretty wild in these last few months. So our friends at Goldman Sachs say that this is where it's going. And we are here today. Today, we're talking about 6 quadrillion tokens. I think Google alone was quoted the other day saying they're managing like 3 quadrillion. In the next 3.5 years, we're talking about 120 quadrillion forecasted tokens. That purple bar is agentic usage, by the way. Who knows what comes after a quadrillion? Anybody? My kid does. It's a quintillion. FYI, it's not a Google, it's a quintillion. So this is the world that we're entering into today. Here at the Linux Foundation, as part of the FinOps Foundation, our job has been and always will be to advance all of you, the people who manage the value of technology. And I couldn't say this is, or I've got to say, this is like the best time to be doing this, because everybody is freaking out. You either got FUD or FOMO, as we're going to hear about tomorrow. And last year, we realized we needed to expand our mission in order to match the expansion that all of you were seeing in your practices from just cloud to technology. A lot of you don't know this, but that conversation started here. Last year, we had a debate at our governing board lunch. I mentioned it near the end so it wouldn't blow everything up. Maybe we need to start thinking about our mission. We had a bigger debate at our annual governing board meeting in October. Some of you were there. I see some of you in the audience. Some were immediately in support, some were not. It was a huge thing. It blew up a lot of the day. And then in January, we voted to change our mission, which just happened to be at about the right time to do that. So here we are today. Let's talk about what the heck a token really is. So we're not talking about crypto. We're talking about the atomic unit of AI. Tokens serve more roles in the modern economy than almost any other commodity has in modern history, maybe oil in the 20th century. Tokens are first the unit of output from all of the hardware and compute and data centers. Tokens are also the input to the cognition and intelligence and the way that the models themselves think. In addition, tokens are how the labs price their outputs and inputs and cash and all those things. And tokens are the value unit that enterprises are looking to monetize. They are the commercial expression of the entire AI economy. And tokens actually sit across a lot of different parts of the AI stack. We don't just see them in those core areas. They float up and down through all the models and the platform, applications, and sovereignty conversations. Europe is talking about more token factories, creating sovereign tokens. We're hearing this through not just the technical stack, but the entire political stack as well. And a lot of the costs are not actually in the tokens. I know some of you are out there like, wait a minute, JR, it's not just about token costs. You're right. Tokens are just a small part of the cost, but they're a measurement that flows through the whole thing. And in that platform layer is a lot of where the costs sit. Orchestration, agents, memory, harness wrapped around all of these things. So the token bill is just the start. It's just the beginning. Has anybody heard of KV Cash in this room? Be honest. KV Cash. Yes, these are the people who are understanding where the spending is going right now in tokens. Go look up KV Cash after this if you haven't. It's one of the things driving a lot of spend. So the overall AI bill is driven by retrieval, it's driven by this harness I mentioned, orchestration, it's driven by memory, it's driven by vector databases and evals and governance, but the big one still, I heard yesterday in our exec forum, for many of you, is labor. People are still expensive. More on that soon. But, JR or Jevin, aren't token prices falling dramatically? Haven't they come down hundreds of bits? We read about it in the news, right? Well, yeah, they have. Since 2023, token prices have fallen dramatically. However, if you look at the top labs and their pricing, you go back to the Wayback Machine, token prices are pretty flat since November of 2025. So we essentially have half of Jevin's paradox happening. Vertical usage, flat cost, because we are in and have been for a bit and will be for a while an era of AI scarcity. We can't get enough hardware, we can't get enough power, says pretty much everywhere in this game. We're seeing backlogs, we're seeing long commitment periods, and we're seeing shortages. That was the Intel CEO saying he doesn't think there's going to be relief until 2028. Everything's behind, including the raw materials, the rare metals, copper, and all these things to drive more AI. And the era of AI subsidies has ended. How many of you were token maxing that $200 a month plan? It turns out some of you were reported to have been costing these labs upwards of tens of thousands of dollars a month as inference whales when you were running everything on the latest model. This doesn't work when you're heading for an IPO. So now what matters more than anything is AI value. We've got to bring the value back to what we're doing. So we're in an era where tokens are the main measurement. We're in an era where tokens are in everything in software, and they're driving a lot of the global token economy. Three things: tokens, token era, token economics. What does that spell? Tokenomics. So, everything I'm about to say up here, we don't know if it's right yet, so please don't clap, Kina. None of us know what this thing really is yet, so don't worry. So how might one define tokenomics? Just as an example. You could say it's the emerging discipline of converting energy and capital into AI tokens and resources, consuming those tokens and all the related technology to drive efficient and enable intelligence, efficient intelligence, and then ultimately drive value on the back end. That's pretty complicated, so let's simplify it. Tokenomics: energy, intelligence, value. Energy, intelligence, value. Energy, intelligence, value. Tokenomics. But what about FinOps? We're at a FinOps conference. I haven't said FinOps much yet. This is the definition, which is official now. The last definition, definitely not official. Tokenomics is still being figured out. FinOps is a framework, cultural practice, which maximizes the value of technology to enable timely data-driven decision-making, financial accountability, all of these things. So those sound pretty similar. There's some overlaps there. But there's one big difference, is that FinOps assumes that the resources that you're going to go work with already exist, that you can go out there and procure them, the servers, the VMs, whatever it is. So how do I think about token creation? What about when I need to manufacture this token from energy and capital? What does that look like? So we start to see an emerging map, again, not final, early thinking, don't quote us on this, tell us how it should be better, about what tokenomics is going to look like in different buckets. First of all, there's a production bucket, where we're going to take energy and capital and create tokens. There's a consumption bucket, where there's all the allocation and forecasting and optimization and all the things that kind of sound a lot like FinOps for AI. And then there's a value bucket on the back end, which yes, FinOps has value. All these words, they come together. But tokenomics starts to touch into business models in a way that FinOps does not. How do we monetize those tokens? How do we change the way we price based on the cost of those tokens? What are the labor implications in our entire company based on the cost of that AI? So let's dig into the production bucket. There's a few ways that you can produce tokens. But this quote came out in March from Jensen at GTC in San Jose, And I was skeptical at that point. I was skeptical about this whole thing, and frankly, by March, I was not a fan of the term tokenomics. But Jensen was right. In the last few months, at least in the Fortune 100, every CEO is starting to think about token factories and token economics. So token factories first start, for many of you, of course, with data centers. Some of you in the room own data centers. Many of you lease data centers. A lot of you are buying outputs from data centers. But increasingly, we're starting to see token creation on the edge. The enthusiasts in the room will have Mac Minis cranking them out. There's one or two folks in the audience who have giant garages full of NVIDIA hardware. You know who you are. But all of you are going to be procuring tokens, the same token, from different places. If I want to buy a token from Anthropic, I can get it from Bedrock, I can get it from Vertex, I can get it bundled into Cocoa from Snowflake with a credit system. There's lots of ways I can get these. You might even start to get tokens from data centers in space. We'll see. There's a Gartner article about this. You can check it out. We'll see if they actually come true. So, what does this look like? Creating tokens on the back end results in this ultimate question. The first one the boardroom is asking is, what does AI cost? Right? Pretty basic question. And that's where we get into that middle layer, the consumption layer, the FinOps-y stuff. How do I estimate? I'm laughing because there's a correlation between the really advanced AI companies and how bad they are at forecasting their AI spend. The more AI you're using, the worse you are at forecasting your spend. This efficiency layer, though, is what's going to drive your cost. Pinterest is in the audience. He's going to be up here on the stage tomorrow. They have a tokenomics model that blew my mind. I just heard about this last week. We were so excited we're going to put them in the keynote tomorrow. But they're talking about the consumption layer all the way down from the silicon, even though they're just talking about cloud, hardware, inference, capacity, quantization. Say that 3 times fast. And at the top, model, routing, and governance. This is a whole new way of looking at this. So tomorrow, come hear the deeper dive on this stage about what they're doing. We also are hearing a lot from Adobe. Yesterday, Adobe was in our executive forum. Adobe's been at scale in cloud for 15 years. They've been doing FinOps for 10 plus. They're blowing things up with a whole new model they call Big T. Big O for the computer science folks in the room. They've got Big T. This is about model routing, prompt architecture, caching, abstraction, transparency, and ensuring the right workloads in the right places and the right hardware, of course. Some of this stuff is starting to sound a little bit different than FinOps, isn't it? It's like just a touch. Some of you may be doing this, but a lot of you are not. Model routing is becoming one of the most critical functions of the new FinOps or tokenomics practice. You got hundreds or thousands of price points, from pennies to dollars, and there's some nuance here. Model routing is great until it breaks your cache, and suddenly that cheaper model gets a lot more expensive because you're rebuilding your cache. Prices wildly vary between tokens, especially if you got a Mac Mini on your desktop and you want to also go try 4.8. These are big ranges. So we're going to see tons of new metrics coming out. These are probably not the right metrics. Whatever you have on your dashboard right now at home is probably the wrong metric. We're all figuring this out because I do know that once we start to measure something, it gets gamified and then it probably doesn't work well anymore. So we're going to have to be publishing and working together a lot around these things. Because the next question the boardroom is starting to ask is, what's the value? What is the value of all this intelligence? Why is it so expensive? And am I getting enough back from it? So this is where we get into the third piece. I don't know if this is a value bucket. We called it monetization in an earlier slide. We're figuring this stuff out as we go. We need your help on this. But this is where this is changing business models. You look at software companies alone right now. The biggest software companies in the world are having to change how they price for decades, right? We're moving from seats and licenses to consumption basis. We're blowing these things up in new ways. This is cascading into opacity, opaque models that we're paying for. A lot of companies start at the credit level. We created some videos that we're going to show you tomorrow with some service that I put my credit card down, and every time I ran a video, it was like, put more quarters in the machine, put your credit card down. These credits go fast. Others are doing hybrid models, right, where you've got a basic monthly and then some level of consumption, and we're starting to see some of the companies out here starting to do direct allocation, direct pass-through of these things. So we're starting to see a move from opaque but expensive to clear, but still expensive. So tokenomics as a supply chain really needs to look across these. On one side, the pricing of the tokens that you're getting in manufacturing is going to intersect with the efficiency of the work you're doing in the middle, driving your intelligence, And then that's going to ultimately change your margins. If you're a public company, this may be affecting how the market looks at you. You may have to change your business models. Downstream as well, anything changes in this. Your token factory changes. You route to the wrong model and blow your cash up. You inefficiently forecast or estimate. Anything changes, this affects consumer pricing at the end, and you may have to change your entire pricing model for how you go to market. And this isn't just software companies. It's cascading into banks and everyone else today. So there's a lot of unanswered questions. How do we measure all of this? What are the right metrics? How do we standardize pricing and price changes across all of these different pricings? How do we price for uncertainty and failure in our AI experiments? What the heck is tokenomics? And how does it relate to FinOps? I don't know. We're figuring that out. Who gets tokens in their bonuses? Which are your 10x engineers, your 5x, your 3x? Who gets the most tokens? And should a human really even be doing any of this work? Who still has unanswered questions? If you're not raising your hand, I don't really trust you right now. So this is why we are announcing the Tokenomics Foundation. The Tokenomics Foundation will be a vendor-neutral home for solving and hopefully defining some of these token economics questions that we all still have together. We're going to aim, as we did with the FinOps Foundation, to bring together the biggest consumers of this new technology, before it was cloud, now it's tokens, with the biggest suppliers, which is an entirely different ecosystem. Yes, the clouds, and you're going to hear a lot from them, but also the inference providers and the neo-clouds and the hardware providers and the frontier model providers. These are all new players in this ecosystem. This is greenfield, right? This is all net new. We have so much to do. Somebody backstage told me there's no way you can do all of this, and yeah, we need help. We need all of your help to figure this out. We have some great early supporting companies. You've probably heard of a few of these. I think every single one of them is here today. These are big companies, and I put it, my designers hated this. I was like, yes, I want asterisks on every single company, every single one. They're like, why? You only need one asterisk. The reason is I really want you to know all of these are also massive consumers of tokens. Some of them are vendors, some of them are suppliers, but some of these vendors, Google counts in quadrillions of tokens, right? These are massive consumers, and on the other side, this is a short list because we actually only gave these companies 5 days to get their corporate comms approvals to get into this list. And it turns out things are moving a lot faster in the AI era. So there's a long tail of companies behind that we're working with on this that you're going to be hearing more about in the coming weeks. So some great quotes from these early supporters, all about efficiency, compounding, about how abstraction and opacity are affecting their models, about how we need clear financial controls. And one of my favorites from our friends at JP Chase, Arvind Joshi is the COO for Lori Beer, their global CIO. And Arvind said, the timing for this foundation is exactly right. Our buddy at JP Chase was texting me this morning saying they want to talk about how we can get this thing going. This is an urgent need for these giant consumers. So the Tokenomics Foundation will build alongside, and this is key, alongside and together with the FinOps Foundation. The FinOps Foundation is going to remain exactly as it is. This is the practitioner community. This is the practitioner table. We're going to invest in the framework. I have some announcements on that coming. We're going to keep investing in FinOps for AI. We're going to invest in certifications and grow this community that's now over 120,000 people around the world. Alongside it, the Tokenomics Foundation, while the FinOps Foundation does all of this, is going to do a deep dive. It's going to go dive into this problem. I'm going to be hiring a new team within the Linux Foundation to do this work. We're going to share resources. We're going to share events. We're going to share things like that. But we're going to run a dedicated set of governing boards, technical steering committees, and critically, IP-managed member working groups that solve this problem and set up vendor-neutral specifications and best practices for everybody. Because at the core of what we do, our mission, is you, the practitioner. Our mission is, always has been, and I think always will be, to advance the people who manage the value of technology. So, as we look at how this looks in the organization, you'll see that our community will stay together at events, in our Slacks, in our community calls, all together. The FinOps Foundation will continue to do the great work it's doing with the existing team it has, continue building and growing. The Tokenomics Foundation will stand up alongside of it, sharing some operational resources, but with a new set of SMEs, governing board, technical steering committee, and working groups. ITAM Forum, which joined us a few months ago, will continue its work. They met here yesterday for their inaugural Linux Foundation board meeting. And all of these organizations will continue to support Focus. Focus is the substrate of underlying billing data to normalize all of this. And what's new is we now are working a lot more closely with our friends and colleagues in the Linux Foundation. The Agentic AI Foundation had MCP donated to it this year by Anthropic. Other frontier model providers like OpenAI sit on their board. Cloud Native Computing Foundation hosts Kubernetes. PyTorch hosts VLLM and SG Lang. We at the Linux Foundation are one of the 40 companies in the world who have access to Mythos. We are directly testing Mythos against the Linux kernel and our security offerings. We're going to bring all this together into a single practitioner community focused on tech value. Within the Linux Foundation, as this changes, FinOps X will have to evolve as well. But before I tell you about that, I want to welcome to the stage a few folks who have been really dramatic and helpful. Dramatically helpful? Just helpful. I lost my words right at the end. In this whole process, Frederick is a governing board member of the FinOps Foundation, will continue to be so, but he is also now a committed member of the new Tokenomics Foundation. So please, after this lovely video, welcome to the stage Frederick and Maida from SAP.
Since the dawn of time, history has been defined by a series of world-changing innovations. These groundbreaking moments were not always met with the appropriate levels of enthusiasm.
Well, that's the end of the raw food industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the end of Shakespeare.
No more mainframes.
Well, that's the end of big data.
They're calling it software as a service. You think people are going to rent software?
So we're an autonomous enterprise now. You know what that means?
It's the end.
Yeah. The end of busy work, bottlenecks, and silos, and the beginning of faster, simpler, better.
Welcome to the autonomous enterprise. It's not the end of anything. It's the beginning of better.
Good morning, San Diego.
Hello, everyone.
And yeah, it's not the end. But let's get started. Every transformation in history, as you could just see, was met with some sort of resistance. AI is no different here, right? But the companies that are leading are not the ones that are resisting. These are the companies that are leveraging the technology for their advantage. 2 weeks back at Sapphire, SAP announced the autonomous enterprise. People set the direction, AI executes. Sounds like a dream, right? But it's actually a big shift. We're moving AI from assistance into execution with the autonomous suite as the operating system of your enterprise. At the core, we have the SAP Business AI platform. Multi-LLM, different hyperscalers, SAP's cloud infrastructure. We're talking about trillions of tokens and billions of spend. Our CTO literally called it, we are all in on AI. My name is Frederick, and I'm the VP of FinOps and Cloud Data Solutions at SAP, and my team ensures that all-in is also economically sustainable.
And I'm Maida, and whenever you hear trillions of tokens, I'm the data scientist behind all of these numbers.
So what are we in FinOps solving today? Right? We practitioners, we need to look under the hood. Maida, let's show them how that looks like.
So let's see. So this is what it looks like. This is 12 months of token consumption at SAP. It's not a linear function. I wouldn't call it even a steep one. It's fairly exponential. Tokens are the best common denominator that we have at hand today. They are the atomic unit of AI consumption. And the industry as a whole as converge on them as a unit of measure. And honestly, when anyone sees a curve bending like this, the FinOps question rises itself. What is driving it? And most importantly, is it earning what it costs? But before we could answer that, we had to be able to show it. Unfortunately, this data did not show up in our standard cloud tooling at the beginning. So we built the first picture ourselves, and we shared it with our CTO. This sharing changed the conversation much faster than we expected. I think Frederick will remember, within days, it went from like, okay, this is interesting, keep me posted, to...
Yeah, it was something like, I need this regularly, I need more. And getting an executive like the CTO involved early helped us to open doors, align people. It gives you the necessary traction that you need. But an executive asking for a number, that's not a question. It's a mandate. And for us to deliver on that mandate, we had to dive deeper. And we had to admit something very early. Our FinOps cloud playbook didn't work anymore. AI does not just stretch the cloud playbook, it breaks it. AI is more different from the cloud than cloud was to the data center. And we want to show you a few examples that we encountered. Cloud infrastructure lives for years. It aligns well to depreciation cycles, and we can buy reserved instances with a lot of comfort, right? AI models, on the contrary, they get deprecated in months. If you look at the frontier model's lifetime, it's less than 6 months. That's not even a quarter of Moore's law. In pricing, cloud resources are priced pretty linear. You add more vCPU, you add more gigabyte storage, you add more terabyte memory, and pricing goes up. In AI, you pay per token, and this little token hides an enormous complexity underneath. Predictability, I guess it's what's causing us all of pain. AI is pretty volatile and pretty hard to forecast. In cloud, we tune capacity. We right size, we buy spot or reserved instances. If I look in the room here, I mean, you're all pros on that. With AI, we need to tune different levers. We need to look at model routing, model selection, prompt engineering, or things like token caching, context windows. These are different levers that we need to leverage. And also, as we experience, different stakeholders in the organization. So while traditional FinOps optimizes infrastructure, FinOps for AI optimizes the outcome of each token. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, calls this the token factory effectiveness. Every company running AI at scale needs to optimize this. For us in FinOps, it's a job description. Every token needs to earn their cost, which is exactly one of the first questions that we got when we shared the report with the CTO. Are our tokens actually getting cheaper?
Short answer to that, yes. This is our cost per token over the same time period. It's clearly trending down, even with a bit flattening on the end. And honestly, it matches the narrative that everyone wants to believe, right? Token prices keep on falling. So the logical question that anyone would ask, and maybe a lot of you in the room, is since token consumption is exploding and the unit cost is falling, they should be canceling each other out, right?
Yeah, actually not quite. So what we saw that even that unit costs kept on falling, that we see spend, even in some months, still doubling, right? That's what you see is the Jevons paradox live. Yeah? Jevons is what we can see. But there are some other signals that we need to watch out for. Are the cost per token bottoming out, rising? Right? We have supply chain constraints. We have hardware prices that are rising. So these are all compounding factors that we need to put into consideration and that we need to proactively manage.
But how we do this? We had to come up with a framework that was purpose-built for all. We started with spend visibility. What we're spending, where, and on which model. This is the foundation, pretty basic, but this is exactly what gets you that executive attention, which then opens the door later for more. The second pillar would be economics. This is how we consume AI. Cost per token, cache token ratio, token to spend drift. This is where you catch the silent killers. At scale, a small 10% improvement in cache token ratio could save you millions annually. And these are not just vanity metrics. These are real optimization levers. And the destination. This is our most important piece, the value. These metrics will help us answering the question that we hear every CEO and CFO asking lately about cost attribution. Does all of this AI spend actually have a good return on investment? Cost per use case can tell you which AI features are economically viable. Inference cost by revenue can tell you if your AI product margins actually work. So here is exactly where the FinOps stops counting costs and starts driving technology decisions. Here we have it. This is our framework, 3 pillars, left to right, from foundation to destination.
Yeah, Maida, and having a framework on the slide, right, is the one thing. Operating it at SAP scale is another one. So if you guys are curious and you want to know on how we build a purpose-built AI control plane, make sure to join us later in our breakout session. But to close out on this, AI is here to stay. Tokens are the new currency. And FinOps for AI, or tokenomics, ensures that they are economically sustainable and not just productive.
But the question is no longer whether AI creates value. I think anyone in this room can agree that it actually does.
Yeah, the questions are actually, do you have the visibility to prove it, the economics to optimize it, and the governance to sustain it? That's the bar. Thank you.
Thank you all.
I got to make it to the joke. I got to make the joke. Leave it to the Germans to be a minute and a half early on their time. That was perfect. So glad. Everybody's always late on their keynotes. Amazing. So this technology value umbrella in the Linux Foundation has a lot of parts to it. There's going to be a lot of this that we're unpacking as we go through the day. So the FinOps Foundation Governing Board, which has been in place in the Linux Foundation since we joined in 2020, is made up of a lot of great people. And it's people across the entire ecosystem of vendors and practitioners and clouds and hardware providers and data center providers. And I wanted to thank, who in the audience is a governing board member? Can you raise your hand? Give these folks a round of applause, please, for all their guidance and help. Thank you. Awesome. In particular, I wanted to thank Jennifer Hayes from Fidelity. She has been our governing board chair since 2021. And she is turning over, I was going to say the hat, the baton, the tiara, I don't know, something like that, to our dear friend, Natalie Daly from HSBC, who is joining as the new governing board chair. Speaking of governing board members, long-term governing board member is the next speaker up here. This person has been really helpful also in that mission debate I mentioned to get us to supporting the larger mission of technology. Please welcome to the stage our dear friend who is a governing board member of the FinOps Foundation and future committed governing board member of the Tokenomics Foundation, Mike from Accenture.
Wow, thanks, JR. Wow, okay. About a month ago, or a little over a month ago, on a Friday, I was talking to a CIO, and he said, Mike, our costs are going up every weekday, and don't tell anyone this, and I love this part because I'm speaking in front of a room of how many people. Don't tell anyone, you're all entrusted with me, but we spent $250,000 on Claude on Wednesday. You laugh now. 4 weeks later, that number was $400,000. No joke. Now, I've been in FinOps for a long time, and I remember the days of the runaway lambdas. We had one case where a lambda function blew itself out of the free tier and was costing $20,000 in a matter of hours. What was the anomaly detection in that case? AWS engineers on the back end said, whoa, we've never seen anything like this before. They escalated it internally all the way to Andy Jassy, who told them to get on the phone with us. We had a case where a big query that was costing tens of dollars launched to $1 million in a single day. Now, we were able to get those under control fairly quickly, in part because they came from individual points of usage. Now, you'll hear a lot about whether AI and FinOps are, how much do they overlap? But in many ways, AI is just one more FinOps scope. I mean, are token cost structures really all that different from Lambda functions? But our ability to build tools and our ability to forecast and allocate and optimize is going to fly through the crawl, walk, run gates way faster than it did before. This is not where we're going to be spending our time. There are two things that make AI very, very different from FinOps, and I think of these in radii. The first is an expansion of our circle. Now, we've been doing FinOps by design, shifting left and shifting right for years. We've been bringing engineers and architects and operators and developers into our world. But now we're going to have to weigh in on things like network proxy configuration, desktop policy, API call metadata, and things like that. The other expansion of our circle is vertical. It's perpendicular. We have the attention of the leaders now. Like that Lambda function, token costs have launched FinOps past the VPs we've been trying to get in the room with, all the way to the C-suite, the CEO's office, and the boardroom. So AI's pulled back the curtain on FinOps, and many of you know you're in the spotlight right now like never before, and for some of you it's yet to come, but in any case, I believe this is actually our moment. I work for a services company. We were one of the first to be fingered as the one that's going to be massively disrupted by AI. So what did we do? We invested very heavily to understand what this was going to mean for our business, for our nearly 800,000 people, and for the way we serve clients. Our CEO leaned in really hard, and by the beginning of this year, we had a mandate that said, if you don't use AI regularly, you're not eligible for promotion, and we're measuring it. We're tracking this. The senior leaders across all of our companies, we've been working with technology and product people for a long time, but now we have to get into finance, HR, legal, logistics, facilities. They're all grappling with what AI means for what they do. So what I want to talk about to you today is how you as FinOps practitioners can seize this inflection point to cement the strategic value of FinOps, something too few senior leaders really understood. So consider, AI costs are climbing at a speed that no one has ever seen before, and there does not appear to be a ceiling. Consider that the hyperscalers are investing collectively about $2 billion a day into AI infrastructure costs. We are looking at IPOs from OpenAI, I had this list, OpenAI, Anthropic, and SpaceX with XAI, 13-digit IPOs. Okay, and if you know anything about what that means, it means they're going to be reporting to Wall Street every quarter with expectations for higher revenue and higher profit. And they're going to recover that money from all of us and all of our companies just as fast and as profitably as they can. Okay, that's how you know cost pressures are continue to intensify. That's why this is our moment, and that's why this is the time when we come with metrics and measurements, with ideas and with solutions. If we can take this one area, tokenomics, we say, we can measure this, we can govern this, we can control this, we're going to get really good attention. But the next step, and you're hearing a lot about, is we can tell you what you get for it, and this is where we're going to shine. So this is where the conversation has turned from cost allocation to value measurement, and value depends on the business, the application, the product, the service, the activities that legal goes through and that HR goes through. So FinOps has to understand the business like never before. Today, a lot of us are a gate that you have to go through to provision resources, or a reporting function, or we're the team that tells you to turn stuff off to save money. We need to show up differently. First, we need to show up with empathy for the business. All these leaders and their operations, they're getting disrupted by AI. They're trying to figure out what to do. They still have to do their business processes. They still have to ship their products profitably every day. We need to speak the language of the business. When we talk about tokenomics to senior leaders, we have to speak in terms of projects and programs, initiatives, products, channels and partnerships, don't talk in terms of environments, workloads, or providers. We're the ones with the data platforms. So we have the ability to process data at speed and at scale. And we need to provide visibility, but we don't need more dashboards. We have to provide specific insights and specific recommendations that show we understand the tensions in the business. We have to bring the idea or the insight to the executive who's making a bet on their career with a particular decision that they're making. And so to do that, we need to proactively engage the business, and we need to understand how they measure value. We need to be able to walk into a room with the SVP of a line of business, a chief product officer, a CMO, a CIO, a CRO, the CEO, and speak strictly in terms of how they measure themselves. So we're talking about unit margins, basis points, cost per room booking, research project user provisioning overhead rates. We also need to give them signposts. Okay, we need to, rather than just what the data is and maybe how it was measured, tell them who's going to use it and when. Leaders have a mental map of what's going on in their span, and they know the people that roll up to them. And so if you can tell them who's going to use this piece of data and at what point in a known business activity or process, that's better than any punchy metric that you can, or unit that you can come up with. Look at a call center. Okay, we know that the key metric is fairly simple. It's cost per call, and AI can drive massive productivity improvements in this. But actually reducing labor is it's harder than you think. And so AI winds up chewing into a lot of the efficiency margin that we thought we were going to get. Engineering's even harder. It's easy enough to measure metrics like lines of code or number of check-ins, but those are not the business priorities generally. We need to understand and be able to talk about feature velocity, business outcomes, maybe contractual obligations met, and tie things like that to AI costs. Now, if you heard me present in the past, you know that I say that it's very important for FinOps teams to track how much they're saving. This is how they show their value to leadership. But what happens when savings are not even a part of the story because we're doing things that we've never done before, or when things actually cost more than they were costing before? As we become strategic advisors, our ability to clearly show AI value improvement is going to be one of the key illustrations of the value of FinOps. My colleagues, Jessica and Alex, who I think are in the audience here today, will be speaking about this in detail later on today. How to get your seat at the table and what to do when you're sitting in it at 2:45 in this room. So one final thing about measuring value is that we're always going to be looking for improvement in value. Today, a lot of the conversation is about how much labor cost can we save with AI. Tomorrow, it's going to be a baseline with AI. Gen 2 has to be better than Gen 1. Gen 3 has to be better than Gen 2. Your AI-enabled delivery in September has to be better than your AI-enabled delivery in June. So it's about defining, measuring, and governing the cost of business outcomes in an AI-driven world. The teams that can connect cost, understand and allocate usage, quantify value, and talk about it in the language of the business will be invited into the most important conversations in the company. So if we do this right, FinOps doesn't finally get its seat at the table, we're going to actually set the agenda. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. So what we're all seeing and hearing is that roles are changing. But there's a part of this that the job apocalypse story misses. And I want to go way back, and this actually is going way back, to the 1980s. Talk about spreadsheets. Lotus 1-2-3, Microsoft Excel burst onto that spreadsheet scene in the early 80s and really changed the job specifically of bookkeepers. And in fact, after they launched, bookkeepers as a discipline plummeted. But what we saw happen was a whole new class of finance person using these more advanced tools, operating in new ways. So to talk about the impact of AI on all of your jobs, I want to welcome to the stage Pooja from Prudential.
Good morning, everyone. I'm actually going to start with a show of hands. How many people in this room have been doing FinOps for the last 5 years? How about 10 years? How many people thought Knicks were going to win last night? I'm sorry, guys. I'm from New York, so I'm a little biased. Congratulations to the Spurs, and we'll see you back in Game 4. Woohoo! All right, let me bring this back to FinOps. And I'm going to make this statement. Traditional FinOps is dead. Not FinOps the discipline, not FinOps the community, but FinOps the way we've been doing it for the last many, many years. And that FinOps is dead. And if I can be brutally honest, that was dying even way before AI came into existence. But before I bury it, let me talk about how we got here. We started our journey, our FinOps journey, just like every other organization does. Cloud became a thing. We started building cloud. We started scaling cloud. Bill got real. The bill got bigger. And then CIO started asking the question, what am I getting for my money? That's when FinOps was born. We built the muscle. We built the team. We did everything that most mature FinOps organizations do today. We built the dashboards. We automated. We also took FinOps to our global offices, and it was pretty exciting at the time. We also quickly realized that a small core team of FinOps is not going to cut it for the future. It's not going to scale. So we actually went on a mission. We went on a mission to build a cost-aware culture, so every single person in the company was thinking about cost. Every stage in our journey felt mature until the next wave made it look primitive. And AI is the biggest wave yet. Now, before we talk about where FinOps is going, where it's evolving, let's talk about and be honest about where we are today. These are the 3 lies every single FinOps teams tell themselves, and I know they are lies because we've told them too. Lie number 1, we have visibility. No, you don't. You have a dashboard. It doesn't tell the whole story, right? Lie number 2, we're optimizing. You're optimizing the bill, but are you really optimizing the business? And lie number 3, AI is just another workload. This is a lie that's going to hurt us the most. Think about it. A VM generally costs the same if you send a good request or bad request to it. But a prompt, on the other hand, is going to cost whatever the model decides to generate. And as you chain agents together, your cost is going to compound in ways your dashboards are not going to be able to handle. So what do we do about it? What do we do with the lies, right? At Prudential, we actually thought about it in a series of shifts in the organization. We shifted up, we shifted left, we shifted across, really worked with our enterprise architecture teams to build controls. We even built a proprietary pricing calculator that predicts cost, optimizes TCOs before anything is deployed to production. Now, obviously, I did this 2 years ago with agents now. I didn't have to build something of my own, but that's where we're at. Shift left, shift up actually works. It's real, but it's table stakes now. Shift wild is where the bet is. This is really using AI to govern AI. And companies are really grappling with what I call decisions and emotions right now. Decisions like, should I be an AI-first company? And if so, what does that mean? What model should I use? Should I go 1P or 3P? Should I do build or buy? And then there are all these emotions, right? There's excitement, there's nervousness, and then there's FOMO. At Prudential, we are trying to balance risk, cost, and speed at the same time. Risk and cost move for us. We're a regulated company, so there's a lot of decisions that we need to make in terms of how fast we can adopt AI. So we may be a little bit behind than SAP and others, where they are already making a comment about autonomous enterprises. Great to meet with them and to learn where they're going. So what I want to leave on this slide is, cost is a boardroom topic in every organization, and FinOps teams and FinOps is becoming a true strategic imperative in the age of AI. Not just a cost center anymore, not just a reporting function, but a true strategic imperative. Now, let's talk about what's happening in the world of AI. And what does this mean for the FinOps teams? I want you guys to take this slide back to your CFOs. Look at what happens above the waterline. This is what your finance teams see today, right? You have the API invoice, you have the token usage report, it's a line item, it works, it's easy, finance can process it. Now look at everything below the waterline. This is what finance will discover every month, every quarter, as your AI agenda scales in the organization. And I'll give you a few examples. Retry storms. Every single time a model fails and retries, it's a cost to the organization. Agentic chains. One user prompt triggers 5, 10, 15, 20 model calls under the hood, which you don't even see, cost to the organization. And then there's model sprawls. Every single team spinning up various models without centralized governance. Do any of you know all the models running in your organization? I sure don't. And the last one of my favorites actually, is GPU reservations just in case. This is the classic AI equivalent of an idle VM. These are costs that we don't see today, right? And these are costs that are unknown and variable. And for me, this is the true shift wild that is yet to be uncovered. So if you believe that the iceberg is just the tip, this is where organizations get blindsided, and their budgets go out of control, right? The questions that I'm getting and the executives are asking me these days are not about how much are we spending on cloud, AI, or other things. That's not the question anymore. It's what does one business outcome cost end to end, and what is the cost of doing it responsibly? And that's where we are shifting. Now, let me bring this back home to all of us. What does this mean for you, your personal careers, and for your teams? If you see yourself spending a ton of time on building dashboards and doing tagging compliance and chargeback prep, you should be worried. Because these are things that are easily automated, and agents can do it much faster and cheaper. Now, if you want to be indispensable in the age of AI, lean into value creation. Lean into token economics, right? JR talked a lot about that. That's where the foundation is going, and I'm really hoping to get some tips on token frugality or even tips on like lean prompting, right? We'll get there. I'm very hopeful and very excited. So lean into all of these things. And the question for me is not whether FinOps will survive. It's whether you will evolve with it. So as you leave this room, I'm not going to ask you to take all the frameworks, the content, the pictures back with you. I'm going to ask you for something harder. Stay open. Stay open, because the only competitive edge that no vendor can sell you and no competitor can give you is your willingness to keep learning. Because the best education you can give yourself is an open and curious mind. Thank you.
Stay open. What a great line. So bringing you back to the tech value umbrella, I want to talk about a couple parts of this umbrella as part of this. First one is the TAC, which stands for the Technical Advisory Council, and this is what they work on. This is the FinOps Framework 2026 that launched back in March. Many of you have seen this. This year brought technology categories as a distinct thing, the different types of spend to which FinOps is applied. It brought enhanced scopes, the way that you apply the practice to that spend. It brought executive strategy alignment and other refinements to this expanding world. The Technical Advisory Council met yesterday here, as all of our groups do, to get work underway for the Framework 2027. So if you see these people, please find them, thank them for their work, and give them your ideas for Framework 2027. I also want to highlight it's election season for the TAC. We have 6 TAC members who are at their term limits or have seats turning over. There's going to be a lot of change. So if you're interested in getting involved with the growing and evolving FinOps framework, come find a staff member and talk about that. I'm also very, very excited, probably my favorite announcement today, to announce that the Linux Foundation, just a few days ago, hired Tammy Burnett to join the FinOps Foundation team. Give a welcome to Tammy, please. Not only is Tammy amazing, she was a practitioner at Shell for years, she's a practitioner right now at UiPath, she's been in our FinOps array of working groups, but she's also going to be joining the FinOps Foundation team specifically to keep growing and building the work of FinOps for AI and leading those working groups and leading that evangelism and outputs. So the next thing I want to highlight is the focus specification. A lot of you are familiar with this, have seen it on this stage over the years. Focus is the normalizing language, the billing language, cost, usage, and other types of spend across lots of different types of categories to make it easier for you to align, normalize, and ultimately get to value outcomes. You saw on this stage years ago us announce each versions of these, and there's some interesting things happening in Focus right now. We're seeing a great adoption, a pickup of additional types of companies who are now putting data out in the Focus specification. In addition to hyperscalers, we've got neo-clouds, regional clouds, data clouds, a whole mix of these. And we're hearing from a lot of you who are taking Focus concepts and just putting them into their internal systems. They're taking Focus specification and you're outputting other things like your data center data into the Focus specification. But one problem we've been hearing from you, literally since we added additional versions, was that there's a lot of versions of Focus and the billing generators, thank you for all your effort, are also on different versions of Focus. So we've seen a lot of inconsistency in how it's applied, and we want to help provide some guidance for the industry and for all of you for how to get better clarity, understanding, and trust in the Focus data from your providers. So excited to announce we are launching, or have launched, a FinOps certified Focus generator, which is the FinOps Foundation's governing board and our staff reviewing and auditing the outputs from a billing generator to ensure they align to a certain bar of specification standards. There are 2 I'm about to announce who have hit this bar. First of all, please give a round of applause to the first one, AWS. And the second one, it might actually be a surprise, but I actually love where Focus is going. The second one is actually a neo-cloud. Please give a little shout for Nebius. This doesn't mean that all the other providers aren't putting out great data. It just means they haven't yet certified. So if data from your providers is important to ask for you, ask them to come get FinOps certified so we can give them this badge and ensure the data is there. And then also, of course, the reason providers advance to newer versions is because you as customers ask them to do so. So help make that case easier for them internally. The Focus specification has a new announcement as well. We've taken MCP, which the Linux Foundation now hosts the code for, and we built an MCP for Focus. So what does this mean? It means that as the Focus specification changes and evolves, you can use the MCP to pull the latest and greatest into whatever model you're using and interrogate it rather than constantly re-importing from the website. Small thing, but useful as things happen. So if you want to check this out, hit this QR code. I'm going to leave it for just a second, and go try the Focus MCP. You can also just go to focus.finops.org. Okay, so token allocations. We've heard a lot about big token numbers. Token allocations are going to drive massive, I mean like truly, truly massive data volumes as they expand. If cloud costs are a hundreds of millions of rows issue, token allocation is a trillions or more issue, especially when you want to start splitting that out per user or per session or per trace even, which could increase data volumes by as much as 100,000x on top of tokens themselves. So this actually gets into a new set of challenges. We're talking about telemetry. We're talking about observability. This goes beyond just billing data. So we're going to see a lot of intersections, and I think the Focus Steering Committee, which also met here yesterday downstairs with the maintainers and contributors, are looking at how do we solve this problem in the future. So tomorrow on this stage, I want you to come back and hear Sean Alpe, who's the Director of Data Engineering here at the Linux Foundation and Working Group Chair, do a deep dive into the Focus 1.4 release, which is landing. He's also going to dig a bit into where Focus is likely going to go in 1.5, 1.6, and beyond as we start to dig in around the token problem. Next up, I want to welcome a very great member of the FinOps Foundation community, sits on the FinOps Foundation governing board, has a member on the TAC and the steering committee. Please welcome to the stage Bradford Lyman from AWS.
Thanks, JR, and thanks, FinOps X. I'm here to talk about how AWS is making FinOps autonomous, intelligent, and agent-first. Now, I still remember my first FinOps X 3 years ago. I was waiting in line for refreshments, talking about savings plans, as you do, when the person in front of me turned around, saw I was from AWS, and immediately launched into feedback about how we can improve the experience. Now, I've been to a lot of tech conferences in my time at Amazon, and this was the most authentic and engaging piece of customer feedback I had ever received. And I knew then that this was a place that we had to come back to because the community here had feedback for us that helped us make our products better for every single customer of AWS. So this year, as our third year here, we have 3 times the number of launches to talk about, 3 times the number of AWS employees at the conference, and we had 3 times the capacity at our welcome party last night. So 3 times as many of you could have the same kind of authentic customer engagement that I had my first time at FinOps X. So we've seen that FinOps has gone from something that companies that do it well can really differentiate themselves to table stakes for every single part of this organization. So now that FinOps is table stakes, how do you differentiate yourself? We're introducing the AWS State of Cost Efficiency Report. Last year, we released the AWS Cost Efficiency metric, which looks at the percentage of your spend optimized with idle resource cleanup, with right sizing, and with commitments like savings plans and RIs. This gives you a composite score that lets you compare different parts of your organization. It's great for looking about your organization, but everybody always says, but Brad, how am I doing against everybody else? The report goes into great detail of best practices and how it can improve your score, and it's worth a read. But I think what everybody wants to know is just show me the numbers so I know how I'm doing against everybody else. 83 out of 100 is the average score, or the median score for an AWS customer using our cost efficiency metric. Now, we think this is super helpful for every single person, whether you're starting on FinOps or you're well on your way to automating everything agentically. For those of you starting out, this lets you know that you can do something great and you can get the investments and buy-in from your organization to make sure you can achieve the results that are possible. And for those of you doing great work already, it's something where you can take this back and show the great work you've done and receive the kudos that you need and that you deserve. So I talked about 3 times the number of launches from us. I think it's helpful to organize that around the AWS vision for FinOps. First, we think optimization should be easy to implement and safe at scale. Next, we think that every dollar should be visible, optimized, and aligned with your business value. And finally, we think FinOps should be effortless, intelligent, and autonomous. So first, let's talk about what we're doing to make it easy to implement and safe at scale. 3 launches I want to highlight that we recently pushed out. First, target coverage for savings plans. We know you use Savings Plan Purchase Analyzer before you make major commitments, but we also know that you take that information and adjust it based on the rules that you have within your company. We now let you take that target coverage that you have, build it directly into our console so that you can get recommendations immediately that you can use and put into practice. This lets you go from analysis to optimization faster than ever before. Next, we're adding automatic cost and forecast explanations. Everywhere with our consoles, you're able to push a button and see any kind of unexpected cost, an immediate root cause investigation and analysis. We think for most things, this gets you what you need to move on with your day. For those that you need to go deeper, it kickstarts that investigation in a way that's faster than ever before. Last, we're talking about additional idle resource recommendations. We actually doubled the number of idle resource recommendations offered by AWS so that you can find more resources to clean up to safely lower your costs, whether it's you or agents that you run. Next, let's talk about how we're making sure every dollar is visible, optimized, and aligned. Again, 3 launches that we have here. Maybe the most important and impactful here is our recent launch of granular cost attribution for Amazon Bedrock. Now, whether it's an application, an agent, or even a human being calling Amazon Bedrock, you can see what model they called and the cost they had for that session. This is the foundation for tokenomics and allows you to understand who's actually driving the costs so that you can build up the entire picture of that cost that we've talked about a lot today with tokenomics. Next, we have credit level sharing. We know that credits are a huge part of how you get value and realize the ROI of building on AWS. Credit level sharing lets you set granular controls as to which workloads and accounts actually get the benefits from those credits. We're also going further with credits, with improved credit transparency. Credits now have a detail page on the AWS console, so you can see every single credit you've earned, how much of that credit is remaining, and what workloads that was applied to. This gives you greater, this gives you greater visibility into credits than you've ever had, simplifies your work in an incredible way. So last, I want to talk about how we're making it effortless, intelligent, and autonomous. Last year at FinOps X, we talked about the skills we were publishing and the MCP servers we were supporting so that you can go build your own agents to operate on AWS and optimize your bill. Now, customers have shown us some incredible agents that they've built using these skills, but many of you have actually asked us to go even further. So today, I'm excited that we're introducing the AWS FinOps agent, which is in public preview today, available for everyone on AWS to go to and get started with right now. Thanks. The AWS FinOps agent allows you to ask anything about your cloud spend. Natural language cost inquiries, anomaly detection, and even produce custom reports. It services and distributes your savings automatically. It will find optimization opportunities, prioritize them based on the business impact, and even cut JIRA tickets to the teams that need to take actions. And it'll let you act with confidence at scale. Whether you want to operate on a schedule you set, create your own approval workflows, or even trust the built-in guardrails we've put in place to support completely autonomous optimization, you have the total control of how you want to interact with our agent. Now, we've been testing the FinOps agent for months with our customers, and we've been thrilled with the feedback we've been receiving. Workday has been able to produce reports in minutes that used to take their teams hours, all with a natural language cost inquiry. Convera has been able to detect anomalies, investigate what changed and caused them, and cut JIRA tickets immediately to the teams that needed to take action. And the Aviv group put it simply as the leverage they need to be as effective as possible. Now, I've had to run through a lot of launches pretty quickly. Later today, in this room, we have Letian Fang and Rick Oakes, both members of the steering committee and the technical advisory council, going deeper on how you can put these into practice within your own environment. Thank you so much for the time today to talk about how AWS is making FinOps intelligent, autonomous, and agent first. We're excited to build it together with you. Thank you so much.
Nice work. Thank you, Brad. Very cool to see. So at the heart of what the FinOps Foundation does is people and education and training. So excited to announce that we've made some updates. Remember, this used to be FinOps for AI. Not only has the badge changed, but the content has as well. So please go check out the new AI Value certification. Also excited to announce a net new certification, Technology Value. This certification builds on the FinOps Framework 2026 to bring in more technology categories, more of a view of how to do scopes, data center, data cloud, SaaS, and of course, public cloud into a net new certification and a better way to apply your FinOps. We've also simplified the model and the path to become FinOps Certified Professional. You now take one of the fundamental courses, you take all of the intermediate courses, and there's a shorter, more simplified path to become a professional once you've done this. So please go check this out. The model and pricing has changed. You can find all of these, of course, on learn.finops.org. Next, I want to welcome a speaker who's going to talk about this idea of the CEO and CFO squeezing the technology leaders in the middle between innovation speed and budget. But before we hear from Courtney at Shutterstock, please check out this video.
What if your ideas could move as fast as you do? Meet Shutterstock's new AI video generator. Use the industry's top AI models. Turn a simple prompt into a polished video to create something entirely new.
In 2003, Shutterstock's founder, John Oringer, set out on a mission to connect the world's photographers with a customer community to empower the world to tell their stories. Today, we've onboarded a bunch of other capabilities, including video, music from Premium Beat, GIFs from Giphy, templates, as well as AI. You're hearing a lot about that today. We have generative AI tools. We're helping customers create content, whether it's an image or a video. And we also have metadata around our content that is empowering our customers to train their own AI models. To date, we have over 840 million pieces of content from over 4 million contributors. And our customers have downloaded 2.2 billion pieces of content in over 150 countries. All of this is super exciting, especially in the world of AI with generative tools and AI tools internally, but it's costly if you don't have controls. Understanding your AI costs is no longer optional. It is foundational to business strategy. My name's Courtney Totten. I'm the Chief Technology Officer as well as the Chief Information Security Officer for Shutterstock. I'm responsible for internal technology, product technology, as well as cyber technology. Our FinOps leader, Becky Canterbury, reports directly into me with access to her peers who run engineering and infrastructure and cyber so that we can have an accountability model. It's also really, really important that she has direct access to my peers, the CFO, the leaders of the business, as well as my boss, the CEO. It is really important that she can talk to them about what's going on in this space and that she has the sponsorship to do that. Now, in the world of AI, we've changed from a cloud FinOps. We've changed the name of the team. It's now AI and Cloud FinOps. So a few months ago, I was in a room with my CEO and some of the business leaders, and they said, Courtney, why don't we give our customers the best model every time? We want to have the best customer experience. Well, it's not that simple. AI models vary significantly in cost and capability. Let me show you. In this case, this is our generative tool. We have a customer who just wants a dog. It's very simple. They just said, give me a dog, any kind of dog. It's simple. We can use any model. We can use a low-cost and low-token model. Now let me show you this one. This is a little more complicated. It's not only a dog. They want a golden retriever. That's a specific breed of a dog. They also want it in a kitchen with a family who's baking cookies at the New Year. It's more complex. With a kitchen, you want to make sure that a generative model is not going to put a sink over an oven. That would make no sense. You also want to make sure that Happy New Year's is spelled correctly. So the models are going to be different. You're going to need a more advanced model. More token use, higher cost. So what I realized is we've got a challenge. We've got a lot of our community who are asking for more models. I want more tools. You know, the business is asking for, give my users anything they need to do their job. Well, there's a lot of different models we can use. There's low-cost models. There's internal tools. There's things we need to do to give our customers the best experience possible, but we're also getting pressure. That pressure from your CFO and CEO to do more with less, have you all heard that? I hear that a lot. You got to balance innovation with the value and the costs that are aside you. So our output tokens make up 75% of our total token consumption. So every time somebody comes to our site and searches for something or creates a generative image, that's creating tokens. That's creating cost for us. It's our primary cost driver. So what I realized when I was in that room and I was asked, why not use the best model every time? I had an education problem. We hadn't spent enough time educating up and out. Leaders did not have what they needed to make strategic decisions around what AI models to use and how much a project was going to cost them. User licenses, we jumped from 50 licenses of ChatGPT to 750 in a month. That is significant. That's changing our costs. And products, adding features, all of these things are creating costs, yet our leaders didn't have what they needed. So, as I mentioned, understanding your AI costs is no longer optional. It is foundational. In what we're seeing today with the exponential growth of AI, it's outpacing our understanding. I think a lot of the CFOs in the room will be excited to hear me say we don't have true understanding of our cost of goods sold. We lack visibility. You heard it from some of my peers today. It's difficult to quantify what things are costing. You might have one model that every division's using for different use cases. How do you put that into one project, one use case? And the executive pressure, it's real. We can't blow our budgets. You heard from JR, some companies are really struggling. They've already blown their annual budget in Q1. That's a problem. We need to get a hold of it. So what do leaders need to see to make decisions? Well, there's a few things. They need to understand what providers we have and what models. Some models under the same provider have different cost models. You need to show that to them. And we need to get to a point where we're showing them signals for strategy so they can forecast what their next project's going to cost them. And last but not least, understand where we've made a commitment to a vendor that we're going to spend and where that's creating risk for the organization. We've centralized this under our FinOps team. And by doing that, we identified 250,000 in unused commitment that we had to use, or it was going to be gone. We were writing that check no matter what. So by centrally managing it and exposing it to the rest of the organization, we found a business division that said, I can use that. I can take that 250,000 and generate revenue and build something great. So our FinOps team is making that work transparent to help our business leverage those commitments. Because if you don't, that money is going out the door, whether you like it or not. So how do you make AI cost a priority? Start with a top-down mandate. My CFO and I have partnered in sending out a mandate to our entire company that all AI costs must come through my FinOps team. That sponsorship is critical. Get a shared source of truth. Start sharing it regularly with the people that need that information to make decisions. And what you'll find is you're going to get faster decisions. You're going to get leadership confidence. So my message is get started. If you haven't, start simple, iterate fast, and evolve as your usage scales. If you want to learn more, join Becky Canterbury and I tomorrow in a breakout session where we're going to talk about how we've made this a priority and the types of reportings that we share out. Thank you so much.
Does that story resonate with what you're seeing in your own organizations? Good. So it isn't mine. My CEO at Linux Foundation literally said, why can't we use the latest model? And then, it gets more expensive as we do. So the next speaker I want to welcome to the stage is a guy, he asked me to say this, and I'm going to say it, who 2 years ago told me I should be leaning more heavily into AI than I am. And he was in fact right. So please welcome to the stage, after this short video, Cyril Belikov from Microsoft, who is, as Microsoft, a governing board member of the FinOps Foundation, and Microsoft is also a committed future member of the Tokenomics Foundation. Welcome to Cyril.
Thank you, JR. Thanks so much. It's great to be back. I've lost count on how many FinOps X events, both here in Barcelona. It's awesome to be here. And I couldn't be more excited about what JR did to set up the event, which is the mashing together, the coming together of FinOps, FinOps for AI, and of course, tokenomics. This is not new for anybody in the room, but essentially what's happened between what was a year ago and now is something very simple: experimentation to production. And that's my simple version of JR's 15 minutes that he did at the beginning. Of course, this happens on many different levels, and JR unpacked it really well for you. But for us, what we saw with customers over the last 3 to 4 years is working with them on industry business level use cases that really made a difference, the value component that many people that have mentioned this before on the stage. But then, of course, the technology platform at all layers of the stack got to the right point, and the intersection happened. Of course, at the same time, you've seen some versions of this CEO, CFO, and you getting caught in the middle. Show me the ROI is the latest view of what's going on. Nothing new for you. What's really important is that historically, we've been in a different state of mind. FinOps has been, we have been, sort of the cost police. How do we manage cost? How do we optimize, right size, catching all these idle resources? Well, then AI happened, it broke the model, and we're in a very different position, answering very different questions. And that means something very different for everyone in this room, which I think is sort of the theme that you're hearing during the course of today. And we are best positioned to help lead this. You are best positioned. You understand the history. You've had many years in FinOps and now applying, but evolving into what it means in this new world. So there are many shifts that are going on, many shifts. And as JR says, if everyone has all the answers, they're lying. If you're all comfortable and happy, you're in a safe place, but not a real place. So I'm going to cover 4 shifts that we see with all of our customers and give you a sense of how we're helping them solve these particular shifts. The first is about building intelligence. And if you're operating like this with your agents, you're going to be bankrupt. It's a simple statement. And just for all the reasons that you heard from Mike, from Accenture, from JR, and all the others, your tokens will kill you. But also, you will not be secure, and you'll decentralize all the knowledge and context of your organization, because intelligence really is the foundation for every AI business, for every AI application, and for every agent. But not only intelligence, context on your business, what's going on. And so we've implemented something we call Microsoft IQ. I really wish we had changed it and not called it Microsoft IQ. I would have rather called it your IQ, because it really is built on our technology, but it's your IQ. It's your data, your context, the decisions that you've made, the processes that you follow, the meetings that you're in, the documents that you have, everything stored in a single place, provided as real-time context to your organization, both structured and unstructured information, so that you can have everything available once with one set of tokens for all the agents to tap into. If you change your agent, retire an agent, or if you change a model or retire a model, or maybe you'll use many models, hopefully you are, then you have one place to go get context for your organization. Okay, so that's the first shift. The second one, very similar, a data and AI platform. All of you in your businesses are telling us every day, all day, I need a data and AI platform that talks together, that helps me think about my business. If you fragment your data sets, if you lock yourself into limited models, limit your governance, you're very, very inefficient. And so we're thinking about how we create a unified data and AI platform so that we provide you with what you need. I'm going to talk about Fabric in a second, but in terms of AI and Foundry, 11,000 plus models in Foundry. Of course, we love developers. We've just had Microsoft build. They want the Ferrari of models all day, every day. Maybe the Ferrari is not good for everything. The Mercedes is just as good and maybe costs different. Or maybe it's even better for what they need to do because they're not on a Formula One circuit. They're going around a normal road. And so while that's important too, you also need a model router. And so a way that you can route models. So we now have hundreds of thousands of customers using a model router to provide an input, decide based on either business rules or automation on how you use the efficient prompt, the appropriate cost, and increasing performance. So, and then the last thing we just announced in private preview is RI for agents in Foundry. Directly in Microsoft Foundry, the ability to compare business value with your token cost side by side. Directly in the portal, and so that you compare and do that even on a daily basis. So this leads to the next concept, which is how do you infuse cost discipline by design? And I started to give you a sense of what that looks like there. For this is FinOps by design. This audience loves that. This audience knows that. But we have to put it in the hands of everybody that's in our organizations. But more importantly, we have to do it real time, all day, every day. You saw a bunch of graphs, but I will tell you, this decision on deciding on FinOps by design or cost by design if you want, you have to reassess it every quarter. Because the cost changes, but not only the cost changes, the value changes. And so every quarter, you need an automated way to evaluate what's going on. A simple example, just a year ago, the ability to modernize something from on-premise to cloud would have cost $10. Today, it costs $3. Every quarter, that changes because of AI and agents. And if you just go to GitHub and GitHub Copilot and the new agents available there, you're able to do that much more efficiently and quickly. And now it's unlocked lots of modernization opportunities for all of you. The last one in this category is about the Azure MCP server that we just announced. And here you can see we're directly in the flow of a developer. We are giving them capability of understanding pricing, evaluating the trade-offs, and making architectural decisions as they're writing code. As they're having a conversation, maybe they're not writing code, maybe they are architecting code, and GitHub Copilot is writing code, but as they're editing code, they can do that in a very, very seamless way. Why does it have to be in a dashboard? It needs to be in the hands of everybody in your organization. So that bridges me to the last piece, which is optimize with confidence. In order to do that, we, as FinOps practitioners, we have to create and help people see the cost discussions and the value discussions together. And so instead of optimization backward-looking, we need to be forward-looking. We need to be leaning into this agent world. And so here you see an example of, within Microsoft Fabric, bringing your information in, your FinOps data, and exposing that to Microsoft agents and to all parts of the organization. This is not a dashboard for you to know or for you to send to business leaders. You want to give it to developers. You want to give it to IT practitioners, engineers, finance people, low-code, pro-code, people playing in Copilot, Claude, Gemini. Give them access. Give them access to your FinOps positions. And so we're super excited to say that we will be continue to focus and and support 1.4 in 2026. And we're going to definitely be looking at that new badge that JR just put up to make sure that we are FinOps certified. But for sure, we've committed to really support that in 1.4. What that means is that you can bring focus from any cloud into Fabric. But I want to go back to a previous concept I spoke about, which is Microsoft IQ. If Microsoft IQ brings a bunch of data, context of your organization, this community needs to contribute to the organization's IQ with your own FinOps data. Add that to your platform, your intelligence and context platform, so that you're giving your entire organization, along with the rest of their context, along with the rest of their Microsoft IQ, so they can ingest into their agents the same information that you have every day, all day. And so with that, you are definitely not behind the business, you are leading it. And I cannot say that any different. Why? Because you know what you've been through. You also know what's coming ahead. And I think what you're getting from this morning, you know that no one has the answers. But this room is smart enough to help us figure it out. So thanks very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Nice work. Really good job. Thank you, Cyril. Okay, so I'm going to come back to this one more time so you don't forget. But the thing I want to land on with this is through this entire tech value umbrella, it is people all the way down, and the people are all connected. So, about that FinOps X. What we're going to look to do is bring these people together in some new ways, in a larger umbrella, to connect all these interconnected disciplines. So today, I'm excited to announce Tokenomicon. That wasn't a joke, that's actually the name of the conference. Tokenomicon, with a FinOps X track, we're not going to fully lose FinOps X here, will replace this conference next year as the consolidated place across all of these Linux Foundation brands to bring together technology value with the wider conversation of AI. Before you leave, I want you to remember this conference is about connecting. So you remember that person next to you that you talked to? If you flip over your badge on the back, there's a LinkedIn QR code that is for you. So before you leave, scan that person's badge and connect and follow up with them later, right? This is about creating conversations. And see later if you can have a debate with that person about where FinOps stops and Tokenomics ends or how they merge, because these are the things we need to figure out together. Tomorrow on this stage, there's going to be some great content. Our very own Ishita and Mike from the FinOps Foundation are going to be leading a conversation about how your jobs change, and a bunch of other fantastic speakers joining to dive into this conversation. So just one more thing, the most important thing of the conference. The fourth and final FinOps Fox. Anybody want to guess the color? Well, downstairs right now, you can go find out right below me at the swag in the expo hall. Go downstairs, grab the Fox, and be one of the first ones to post it to LinkedIn. I'll see you downstairs.